Well, I'm going to talk about the swim. This is really kind of informal, so feel free to ask questions. I'll go through our formal slides that we have, but if you guys just have random questions as I go through, don't hesitate. Also, I know Jillian usually does different specials on gear and whatnot. So we do have some swim-specific gear in the bike shop, like I think the Form swim goggles, the fancy goggles with the heads-up display where you can see your workouts, and in open water it gives you your navigation. It tells you if you're swimming straight or not. We also have some wetsuits left over from the garage sale that were donated. All the proceeds are going to charities, a couple local charities. And then I did bring some items just to have a show and tell from Synergy Wetsuits, which is the official partner of the Chicago Tri. They also have wetsuit rentals, and they also have discounts. So if you're signed up for the Chicago Tri, you get pretty much 20% off anything. And they're doing 40% off of their Hyperion wetsuit. And if anyone wants, shoot me an email afterwards. They gave me a special code for 50% off for people who attend these seminars. But if you're not familiar with the Chicago Tri specifically, I'll talk about that a little bit and then kind of give some general tips. But my name, by the way, is Coach Chris, in case I didn't mention that. I am one of the community managers for Super Tri. So for the Chicago market, I work with all the local clubs, charities, corporate teams. So if you have any questions about the Chicago Tri, I'm more than happy to answer those. If you want some VIP perks and whatnot, want to know some insider tips, I'm also at the swim clinics, and I'm usually coaching at those as well. But we have some cool programs. The First Timers program is technically what we have this education curriculum from. Every couple of weeks we do a Zoom seminar where we get usually about almost up to 100 people attending those every couple of weeks. And those are produced by Live Grit Soars, which is a local charity group. And then we also have BFF Bikes as an official bike shop partner. Jillian and her team actually are out there on race day in transition providing bike support, and out on the turnaround point of the bike course. Yep. So they're providing on-course support at the race. But today we're talking about the swim. I think it sounded like everyone kind of knows the distances, so I'm going to kind of breeze over some of the generic details. But at the Chicago Tri, you can do super sprint, or Olympic, and you can even do the triple, doing all three if you want. I've done that a few times myself. And that's a fun challenge if you want to just swim, bike, run all weekend long. But this is a little video. Oops, I think we'll skip over it. There is a video on YouTube where we actually talk about the whole swim course too. So if you're interested in that, let me know, but I'm going to kind of breeze through some of this. The Super Sprint, if you're not familiar, is a race on Saturday up at Foster Avenue Beach on the north side of Chicago. So if you know anyone doing that, it is a different location, and it is a beach start. So you can actually see the swim arch there with the Synergy label on top. We do 2 to 3 people at a time going into the water every couple seconds. So we call that a time trial start. Much more relaxed. You walk in, if you're a nervous swimmer, you could actually do this the day before. If you're doing like the sprint or the Olympic on Sunday, just to kind of break the ice, so to speak. Because most of the swim is shallow enough where you can walk. So you're literally, the distance is 375 meters. You're probably walking in for 50 to almost 100 meters, only swimming maybe about 200 meters, and then you walk back out. And if it's choppy, they actually narrow it, and it's been an aqua jog in choppy conditions when they shorten the course a little bit. So it's very beginner friendly. They have the kids races that go first, and then the adults go afterwards, so it's also a late start. 10 a.m. usually. And they even have a divvy division. So if you don't have a bike, that's my A race every year. I always peak my fitness for the divvy super sprint. It's a level playing field. Everyone has the same bike equipment. So it's a fun and silly race, but an awesome experience. So that's a really beginner friendly event if you're nervous about the swim. And then the main event though is down at Monroe Harbor along Grant Park downtown. It's one of the world's largest triathlons. It also has one of the largest transition areas. The swim course, if you're not familiar, this is a map showing you right downtown at Balbo Street. The sprint distance just is a point-to-point straight shot going north. The Olympic distance goes south first down towards the Shed Aquarium and then loops back and goes north. So you do about a quarter mile down and then 3/4 of a mile back. So it's a nice course. When my wife Shelly did it her first time, I put a piece of neon duct tape on her swim cap so I could spot her from a distance, and I literally walked the entire course, able to see her the whole time. So it's a fun, if you have friends or family or you want to cheer somebody on, hey, it's a fun course for spectating and supporting people. It is a deep water harbor though. You can't generally swim there on a regular basis. You can't touch the bottom. But it is, I think, one of the best races for beginners. And about a quarter of the whole field every year are first timers. So if you're doing it as your first race, you are not alone as a first timer. This is a photo that shows the swim exit. I want to call this one out actually because when you finish the swim at the Chicago Tri, you have a long run into transition, almost a quarter mile. And a couple years ago, they said, we're rolling out the red carpet for you. We actually carpeted the entire run in with a red carpet. Some years it's a black carpet, some years it's a red carpet. But you come out of the swim, you can see the black arch there is the swim finish, and then you come up the carpet, you have spectators all along the way. But I wanted to point out, some people ask, if you wear glasses, or we had someone on the call this week who's a diabetic, a type 1 diabetic, and she was asking, can I leave my insulin pump somewhere? We do have we call it a special needs table where you can drop off any special needs you might have. You label it with your bib number, and there's medical staff and volunteers there. So they really make it accommodating for a wide range of athletes. There's a lot of para-athletes, adaptive athletes. They literally leave a leg there, and they go pick it up after the swim. They put their leg on and run back into transition. So it's a very big and fun race for all ages and ability levels. This is a photo of the swim start, the way it's been done in the past, and we're exploring potentially changing a couple things on the swim start, but it's generally going to be very similar. You always line up by swim cap tied to your age group in these waves, and each age group goes in one by one. A long time ago, probably about 10 years ago, you went into the swim as a group, as a whole age group, like 200 plus people at a time, and then a horn went off and everybody took off together. That was a little chaotic. Now we go a little bit more chill. You line up only about 5 to 8 people at a time every 5 to 10 seconds. So you kind of line up in this queue system, and they say 3, 2, 1, go, and then you kind of walk down these steps and go into the water and swim. And so the Super Sprint Kids race is kind of done a similar way, but it's just kind of a continuous rolling thing. But they do line up by swim cap. The kids also have it broken up by age range as well. For Saturday, and then for Sunday, the Olympic distance waves go first, and then the sprint distance waves go second. But we might change it. We're talking right now about the idea of going to what Ironman events do, which is a self-seeded start based on your expected swim finish time. But if that happens, we're still, it's the world's largest triathlon, so it's a little complicated to make a big change like that. So if that happens, we'll communicate it ahead of time, and you'll kind of see that. But I would anticipate it being like it has been in the past for now.
So can I have a question?
But yeah.
Is it like alternating years, like if women or men go first?
Yeah, so they generally had put together the age group distribution in a couple different ways. Usually it was done, or the original schedule, which I think they kind of kept the same the last couple of years, was done so that we could minimize the congestion on the bike course. So they did it a special way where they take age groups of certain sizes and kind of line them up to figure out based on registrations how to slot them. But I know I've always heard a lot of feedback and seen, especially the last several years, a lot of the older female age groups going later and having to go in the hotter part of the day. So now that I'm working for Super Tri on the inside, I'm trying to initiate some changes in feedback. Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize that. Even though you're doing the sprint, which is the shorter distance, because you're starting later, by the time you get to the run, you're running during one of the hotter parts of the day. And that's something new if you're a runner and you're used to starting running events at like 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning. In triathlons, you're generally running in the hotter part of the day. So it's something to think about from a fueling and hydration and pacing perspective. But yeah, the official wave schedule probably won't be posted until a couple weeks or about a month before the race. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah. How many people do the race every year? Like you said, it's really big.
Yeah, so back in 2006, 2007, it was the Guinness Book of World Records actually had a guy sitting at the finish line with a manual counter to verify the electronic timing, and it was the world's largest triathlon at that time. At its peak, we had over 10,000 finishers across all the events. So it's big. The last 10 years, triathlon has kind of plateaued a little bit. So I think the sprint and Olympic are maybe around 3,000 each, 3,000 to 4,000 each. So we're expecting about 7,000 athletes over the weekend. So like one to 2,000 on Saturday, and then 5,000 give or take. Could be plus or minus 1,000.
Does the registration close?
It potentially could. Yeah, we do have a formal cap that could get hit. Some events, like the more popular events, do sell out earlier. So usually the Olympic distance will sell out first, and then the sprint. But the last several years, it's only been maybe a couple weeks before the race where it's gotten to that point. But yeah, if you just follow the Facebook page or Instagram, you'll see when we get close to selling out events, we'll always broadcast that ahead of time. But yeah, a lot of people don't think about the transition too, and kind of like the whole logistics of the day. So if you're thinking about the swim, also think about the full day. I'm not going to go through all that. We're going to have separate talks later in the season on the bike, the run, the race day, and all that. But I would encourage you, if you're someone who's new to the sport, get in with some of the groups, like the communities, like Chicago Tri Club, because on race day, we have a whole team area where people can hang out, friends and family, eating snacks, cheering each other on. And it's the swim start area is right along the run course as well. So people who start early, you can actually see them on the run, cheer them on, sometimes before you start if you're doing the sprint. So it's it's a spandex party with 10,000 of your closest friends. But it's fun. The one thing too to think about with the swim start, putting wetsuits on. If you're not familiar with putting wetsuits on, I'll give a couple tips on that. But end of August, it can be very, very hot. And when you put a black neoprene suit on and you're sitting in the sun, you can overheat. And so usually people will kind of keep it unzipped a little bit before they get in, but you will be lining up usually at least 10 minutes, 15 minutes before your expected start time. But it's very social. We have gallon water jugs you can pour on your head to cool your skin temperature down, which is a great way to acclimate to the cold water, or pouring water inside your suit to prevent the cold water from rushing in. So there's a lot of little tips that you can do as you're lining up for the start. And then you can kind of see the metal pole there. There's a scaffolding staircase, like bleachers, that they put into the water. So you step down into the water. Some people will dive. You're supposed to do a foot first entry, so step in casually. But it's nice now that you're only starting about 5 to 10 people at a time. It's much more laid back. And Chicago Tri is one of the best supported races in the world. They have lifeguards on boats, and you are allowed to hold on. We actually have nervous swimmers where it's kind of hard to see in this photo, but there's a lifeguard boat literally every 100 yards or so. And so a lot of people, that's their strategy on race day, is to swim to the boat, hold on, just tell the lifeguard, hey, I just need to catch my breath, and then continue on. And that's okay to do. You just can't have the boat carry you forward. There's no forward progress allowed, unfortunately. There is a wall, but we strongly encourage you not to try to swim too close to the wall and not to hold on to the wall. You don't know what's on the wall, all right? There's a lot of metal. There's zebra mussels that grow in Lake Michigan as well that are sharp. So we always tell people don't swim close to the wall. There's always nervous people there too, so it tends to get a little more congested. So build up, practice open water swimming so that you don't have to do that. But if you do, it's fine. There's lifeguards along the wall. There's staircases or ladders that you can climb out on. So it's a and friends and family can pretty much walk the whole length of it. And then at the end, you have these staircases coming out. There's volunteers that'll actually help to pull you out of the water and help you up the stairs as you kind of regain your bearings. And then what I recommend, if it's a hot day, as soon as you come up the top step and you move to the side, take your wetsuit off. Like don't run in your wetsuit because you'll overheat quite a bit, especially if it's a hot day. But there you can see the red carpet here is the black carpet. But you have a nice long run into transition. There's usually a photographer there, so I always say try to make sure you're smiling as you come into transition if you want to get a good race photo. So a couple training tips in general. I think I've heard a lot of you already say you've been training a bit. The goal is just build up gradually. In the pool, try to do 100 yards nonstop, 200 yards, build up that endurance. Before you get out to open water. Usually I try to encourage people to do at least a super sprint distance swim, so roughly 400 yards or so in the pool. See if you can do that nonstop before you go out into the open water. Once you get to that point, you've kind of got that endurance and you've got your pace down. And a lot of people don't spend the time to learn that. Like learn how to swim slow and work on your breathing. Make sure you're breathing properly. A lot of people get caught up. My first triathlon as a background, I signed up on a drunken New Year's Eve bet with my friends. I did not know how to swim properly. I knew how to stay afloat, but I couldn't breathe. I could swim like 25 yards and I'd have to stop right away. And it wasn't until I had a lot of different coaches explain to me in different ways how to do it. And a lot of experienced swimmers, unfortunately, don't know what it's like to try to learn how to breathe as an adult. So if you're an adult onset swimmer, try to go and work with people that can really educate you on that. I geek out. I run a metabolic testing lab, so I do like oxygen, VO2 testing and talk about carbon dioxide and oxygen exchange. And the best way to think about learning to breathe for freestyle swimming is to actually realize that it is the complete opposite of what you normally do. So if you're a runner or biker, you tend to breathe in through your nose more, exhale through your mouth because that's a more relaxing way to breathe. With swimming, we actually want to teach you to reverse that. You want to exhale through your nose just a little bit to blow the water away because you don't have the muscles to close your nostrils when you're swimming. So you want to blow the water away before you try to inhale. Otherwise, people get water up their nose and it throws their breathing off. So I literally have people just practice doing that, even not in the water, just on land, and then do reps in the pool, do it just kicking, do it with a pull buoy and just stroking, hold on the side of the wall, do as many reps as you need to. And when you get to open water, I highly recommend spending the time, your first time, doing exactly that. At Ohio Street Beach, it's shallow. You can go and just practice like bobbing up and down in the water, like get at least 10 or 20 breaths in a row, make sure your breathing is consistent before you start adding in, additional things. And just do one, make it really simple. Focus on one thing at a time. But then when you get to open water, learning how to swim in a wetsuit is kind of like starting over a little bit. It's weird having it on for one. Especially full sleeve, sometimes it'll feel like it's pulling on your shoulders, and just learning how to get it fit on you properly and how to swim with it is a little bit different. Learning how to sight is important too, but you can actually practice that in the pool. Like thinking about the big thing that people usually do wrong with that is as you're swimming, people tend to take a breath to the side, and then because the head is up, they look forward to sight, and then they bring their head back down. Problem is you get water right up the nose when you do that. So practice actually sighting first and then taking your breath, and that'll usually help you. You can also line your body line, like your arm, up with the direction you're swimming that way. And that way, as you breathe, you can keep that arm up to ensure you're swimming straight. So there's little tips and tricks. We do a lot of education of this at our open water swim clinics that we do down at Ohio Street Beach as well. And then getting used to getting in the water, out of the water, in your wetsuit, peeling the wetsuit off, but also getting used to different open water conditions and being around other people. It's a little nerve-wracking when you're swimming next to other people. Water's dark, you might bump into people. You want to get yourself used to that. So take advantage of whether there's swim clinics or like the Chicago Tri Club doing those stroke and stride events where get in with some friends and practice being in a comfortable environment, getting used to that contact.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I can't remember for registration. Are we required to wear a wetsuit, or is it just
No, it's a great question. So the water temperature in Lake Michigan can fluctuate dramatically. Even when a big storm like this comes through, I wouldn't be surprised. We were talking about the water temperature got up to 62 yesterday. I wouldn't be surprised if it drops to 52 tomorrow. So when one storm blows through, especially from the west or the south, it can actually blow the warm layer of top water away from this shore and cold water comes up from the bottom. So one year, the week of Chicago Dry, it dropped 12 degrees overnight. People are like, oh, it's gonna be in the mid 70s, it'll be fine. And it was like 60, 62 degrees. So a lot of people were unpleasantly surprised. But yeah, I would say generally because of the amount of first timers at the race, easily 3/4 of the field at least use a wetsuit. You don't need to have one though. There are temperature thresholds, which I'll talk about as well. But yeah, if you're a strong, confident swimmer, I put this video of Jackie. So she was one of our Chicago Tri Club members. I coached her for many years. She's down in St. Louis now. She won the Chicago Tri in every division. She did mountain bike division, age group. She turned professional and won it. So I think she won it 5 times total. So this is when I was videotaping her one time. So the main thing I wanted to impart on just stroke technique, so you have something to focus on in open water. What she does pretty well is you can see how she really gets her arm extended out and her wrist kind of snaps down to grab water early in the stroke. So always grab water early, but don't work hard. Grab water, get in position, and only push hard from the shoulder back. Make sure you're finishing your stroke. So we call that the catch, grabbing the water, the pull as you push through. You want to make sure you're finishing your stroke on the pull. The mantra I always have in my head is a long reach in the front and a strong finish, making sure your fingers are pointing back at the end of your stroke. A lot of people get nervous, pull their arm out early, and they just kind of go into the next stroke up here, and you're just pushing water down if you're doing this. You want to make sure you're pushing water back. So long and strong. And then out of the water, it doesn't matter so much what you do, but we normally say keep the hand close to the body. So in the recovery, you want to pull your elbow forward and just get your hand from when it comes out of the water to back in the water as quick as you can. So recover pulling the elbow up and then fingertips in. But there's plenty of good videos, so I'm not going to bore you guys on too many details on the stroke technique. We did actually have Super Tri actually put a good video together with Tim Don, former pro, who's one of the coaches of the Super Tri teams now. There's a lot of good content. There's Global Triathlon Network, lots of good YouTube channels. So if you need some tips, let us know. But I wanted to at least share that. If you follow the Super Tri YouTube channel, you can find that. These are my top 10 tips though, just to wrap up all the swim tips. These are one of our clinics down at Ohio Street Beach. We get up to 500 people down there for the clinics, but they're broken out in time slots, and we have about a dozen coaches. So you get into a group of about 10 to 20 people, and you get a lot of kind of one-on-one tips, and you practice drills. So the main tips that I like to encourage, and if you need help with any of these, let me know. Always wear a bright colored swim cap when you're in open water. It's not just for you, it's so that other people don't swim into you, so that they can see you as you're swimming. I actually have a bunch, so if you need one, let me know. If you're swimming in open water where there are not lifeguards on duty especially, make sure you have a swim buoy. So like something like this, they actually make some nice ones, like Synergy has this one that you can put your cell phone in. It has a dry bag on the inside. By the way, if anyone wants to make a donation to our fundraisers for the USA Triathlon Foundation, I'm happy to just give you one of these. I also, if you ever catch me at Ohio Street Beach, if you make the effort of coming out to the open water, I give away free swim buoys. When I did my 100th triathlon, I was like, it would be cool if every triathlon I did something for somebody. So I bought 100 swim buoys and just started giving them away. And now every time I do another triathlon, I buy another swim buoy and I continue to give them away. So just to encourage people to not be afraid of open water. So if you ever come down and you see me, I always have at least one extra with me. So use those when you're swimming, especially on your own or in areas that are not lifeguarded. But But even when their lifeguards are on duty, it's good. It just makes you more visible. You have less risk of other people swimming into you. And if you get nervous, you can hold on to it. Learn how to deal with cold water. Oh, and use the buddy system if you can. I did create a chat group on an app called Team Reach, which is just an open swim meetup group for Ohio Street Beach downtown. So if you ever want to meet up with other people, we have people every day of the week that are posting on there like, hey, I'm going to go at this time. Maybe you want to join me. And just having that extra person with you is obviously nice from a confidence building standpoint, but just from a safety standpoint as well. Or just have somebody on land, have a friend or family member walk alongside and cheer you on. Learning how to deal with the cold water. I did a whole YouTube video on that if you want. I can share that with you. But you can do things like as you're showering every day, turn the water down at the end of the shower and just get your body used to feeling cold water. Just doing that little thing can really help as you get ready for open water. But there's a lot of other tips. The biggest one is just get your skin wet. The reason why people get shocked when they go in the water is because your skin temperature, especially on a hot summer day, is a lot warmer than the water. And that initial shock, that temperature differential, is what causes your body to pull blood from the skin into your organs to kind of protect yourself. So the best thing you can do is just get water on your skin. Some people actually go down to Ohio Street Beach with a water bottle of just water and will splash it on their face, on their hands, or pre-fill it in their suit. And that makes a big, big difference. And then practice the breathing techniques I mentioned. Work on buoyancy too, just getting comfortable realizing that if you just float on your back, we call it the starfish drill, like doing a snow angel in the water, just floating on your back and covering surface area makes you a lot more buoyant, with or without a wetsuit. And so just learning how to float efficiently is always a very helpful skill for open water. And then defensive swim stroke, I call it the catch-up stroke. If you've ever done the catch-up drill, that's where you take one full stroke and you bring your hands together before you take your next stroke. That's what we do as a drill in the pool oftentimes. In open water, I call it the defensive swim stroke because you're always keeping one arm in front of your head. So if you get close to somebody else, you're going to have this arm as a buffer to help prevent you from bumping into them with your head. So to protect your head, always do the catch-up swim stroke, especially around congested areas, swim buoys, or the start of a swim. It helps you slow your stroke rate down, keeps your heart rate down. So it's a good tactic to practice. Freestyle swim is actually technically just called 3/4 catch-up technique. So if you've ever heard of 3/4 catch-up, that's what freestyle is. Your arm moves 1/4, 2/4, 3/4 the way around, and right before this hand enters the water is when you're supposed to take that next stroke. And that's all freestyle technique is a accelerated catch-up technique. Plan B strokes, you can do any swim stroke in a triathlon. I did my first triathlon, I did backstroke the whole way. My first Olympic triathlon, I did breaststroke the whole way. Backstroke, unfortunately, doesn't help you swim straight. You tend to do a lot more distance. And breaststroke is a lot more leg heavy, so your legs get tired. By the time you hit the run, your legs are done. So that's why freestyle is the most popular technique. It's the most efficient, especially if you have to bike and run afterwards. And then sighting and drafting. If you're a competitive strong swimmer, practice drafting off other people. I'm actually not a very fast swimmer, but I can usually swim faster than a lot of other people at my fitness level because I get really good at drafting off of other people. Whether it's swimming behind somebody or off to their shoulder, you don't have to be super close, but just nearby that bow wave, that wake that a body creates as it moves through the water. And that's a fun thing to practice with friends too, is intentionally drafting off each other. But any questions on those tips? Kind of breeze through it. What else do we got here? I think. Oh yeah, so this is a video. Let's see if it'll actually play. No, maybe not. Our open water swim clinics at Ohio Street Beach. So I just want to mention the dates. The first one is actually coming up here pretty quick, May 27th. It's the Tuesday right after Labor Day or Memorial Day weekend. We do 3 clinics. We do 4:30, 5:15, 6:30. And we do a competitive aquathlon at 6 p.m. So there's 4 different sign-up options in terms of times. And each clinic we do beginner, intermediate, and advanced. So we break up into tons of groups. We have dozens of coaches down there. It's usually 300 to 500 people on these dates. So these are big, big clinics. It's every 4 weeks, so one a month throughout the summertime. You have to sign up early. They will sell out. We do also have at the Chicago Tri, there's a program called the Corporate Challenge, where if you want to, wherever you work, want to create a company team, if you know a coworker that might want to do the race with you, you can do fundraising for Lurie Children's Hospital. And if you fundraise, the minimum is $250 or $350, you get the swim clinics for free. So even if the swim clinics sell out, you can still get it through a fundraising option. And that program, you also get a VIP bike rack in transitions. You get to rack with your teammates. So there's some cool perks with that program. Yeah, they do have wetsuit rentals down there. So Urban Tri Gear comes down. You do have to contact them ahead of time though, to let them know like what size you want and everything, because they will run out of those wetsuits.
I have a logistics question.
Oh yeah.
On that, because I think I've signed up for pretty much all of those.
Yeah.
What do I do with my stuff?
They have gear check there. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll have a whole secure area. We have one charity partner that'll be there to help check you in, and we have another charity partner that just manages the gear check. So you get a little number. We get everybody a swim cap. You also get a free beer after you finish at the restaurant down there. So the staff and athletes hang out afterwards and socialize. So it's personally my favorite part of summer. I live downtown there, and I walk a couple minutes and get to hang out with my 500 of my closest friends every Tuesday once a
And then
month.
one other question.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do an aquathon, I think the third time around, and hopefully I'll be at that point.
Yep.
What does transition look like?
It's very similar. They have on the beach, they set up a little area, and you just put a towel down, you put your shoes down. It's really simple. But yeah, it's a fun. So an aquathlon is when you swim and then run afterwards. And so at these clinics, you can sign up for a competitive division. We do results and awards. So if you don't want to do the basic clinics, you can sign up for a competitive event. And that's usually our goal is like, first one, do the beginner clinic, second one, do the intermediate, then do the advanced, and then do the timed swim or aquathlon. And then these are some community events I wanted to mention. So the open water swim clinics I just mentioned. We also have the Tri Series I mentioned, which is with Leon's Tri and Pleasant Prairie. So if you want to kind of plan out your whole summer, Leon's Tri is the Military and First Responders National Championship, and Pleasant Prairie is the Wisconsin State Championship, and Chicago is the Illinois State Championship. So all of those events can help qualify you for the national championship in Milwaukee. If you want to try to qualify, you just have to finish in the top, I think, third of your age group. And then BFF Bikes, Jillian does a wonderful job of having tons of clinics, events. I join in her Wednesday morning runs where we run on the 606 trail every Wednesday morning. They have bike rides every Sunday, beginner rides, and then intermediate rides with, 40 miles for the endurance rides. So if you're a stronger athlete, there's an option every other week. If you're more of a beginner, same thing. Every other week, it just alternates. And then there's a whole bunch of clinics, Fix-A-Flat, and I forget all the different clinics and events, brewery rides, and all sorts of fun events during the summer. And then Chicago Tri Club, I mentioned, Thursdays, they have the Stroke and Stride down at Ohio Street Beach. I also coach, so shameless plug, I do coaching as well, obviously, but I partner with a health club downtown, and our programs are on Mondays and Thursdays. We do indoor pool classes, and our Thursday class moves out to the lake, kind of partner up with the Chicago Tri Club on Thursday nights down at Ohio Street Beach. And you can sign up for either of those. If any of you want to join in and just try and join in a group swim class, I'm always happy. I offer a free drop-in. The code is FREESWIM. It's easy to remember. So if you go on the website, you can just sign up for a drop-in class for free. I'm always happy to give you some basic feedback on your stroke technique. Also, there's different communities. One of the bigger ones too, they have a summer kickoff, I think next Wednesday? At another brewery, the North Avenue Swimming and Triathlon Yo Group. NASTY is their acronym. And they swim at Ladder 1, which is by North Avenue. But they're a big growing group, a lot of young athletes in that community. And then gear, so I wanted to touch on that. I know we talked about the wetsuit temperatures, so I actually listed some of that here. So if you are shopping for a wetsuit, please do not go on Amazon and buy like the $40, $50 wetsuit you might find there. A lot of those are surfing or jet ski wetsuits, which they might keep you a little bit warm, but they usually have short legs with very little neoprene. And when you're swimming in open water, you want more neoprene in the legs to keep you more buoyant. So open water wetsuits usually are either sleeveless with full legs or full sleeve with full legs, but you'll generally always see full legs. For people that don't want a full wetsuit, you can also get just legs or just shorts. So you get some buoyancy without the overheating or constrictive feeling of having a full wetsuit. And Synergy wetsuits, who I mentioned, they have, most wetsuit brands make all this gear. If you're swimming early in the season too, they make a neoprene swim cap. I've got one example here. So just a thicker, usually like fleece lined if it's thermal on the inside type of swim cap to protect your ears and keep your ears warmer when you're swimming in colder conditions. Like
Very, very sexy.
yes, doesn't look pretty, but it works. And then neoprene booties you can also generally wear. They have different thresholds for different things. So gloves you cannot use, especially anything with webbing, unless the water temperature is below 60. Below 60 you can use regular gloves that don't have webbing. So if you're doing any cold water races, that's good to know. Goggles, I wanted to mention, so I actually brought that exact pair, I think. They do make open water specific swim goggles. The main thing you want to look for an open water goggle is that they have a greater field of view off to the side than competitive pool swimming goggles. A lot of them also are taller vertically, so when you're sighting, you don't have to pick your head up quite as much. And that makes a big difference. So I highly recommend getting an open water specific type of goggle. You'll usually also see they have a thicker seal so that if water's hitting it, you're not likely to have it leak as much. Some of the smaller like socket goggles are more prone to leaking when you're in open water conditions. And these are not expensive. This is like 20 bucks or so if they're on sale. So I highly recommend getting an open water specific type of goggle. But there's a whole, on the USA Triathlon website, you can find all the rules about what type of gear you can use, what you can't use. So definitely read through that at some point if you're not familiar.
If you're used to training or racing with compression calf sleeves and you choose to wear just the shorts, you can't wear the calf sleeves.
Yeah, you can't wear compression socks at all. And compression, just calf sleeves, you can wear if you have a wetsuit covering it. The concern there is that those can slide off, and then it's just a hazard for other people. And they also make your legs heavier if you don't have the buoyancy. And so people struggle when they swim when they have those on sometimes, and that's the main reason for that rule. But yeah, that's a good question.
You have like when it's legal in certain temperatures, what sort of suggestions do you have of when you should use a neoprene cap versus a sling?
Yeah, so the neoprene cap you can use anytime they allow neoprene wetsuits. But normally I don't wear a neoprene cap above like 62 degrees. Like below 65 maybe I would, but for the most part I only wear this when it's like below 60, if it's in the 50s. Just depending, like there's a lot of variability with things like if it's sunny out or not, if it's windy out or not, if the air temperature is high or low, like all that can affect, at what temperature you might want to use certain gear. So you always want to look at the full forecast. A good tip too, if you're looking to swim here in Chicago at Ohio Street Beach, the best thing to look for when you're wondering like, what's the water gonna be like today? Besides looking at the temperature, look at the wind direction. Because anytime the wind is coming from the south or the west, like today it's coming strong from the southwest, Ohio Street Beach is protected by the city skyline. And so it is super calm when the winds are coming from the south or the west. But if the wind is coming from the east, like across the lake, or the north, the waves build across Lake Michigan, and by the time they hit Chicago, it gets choppier. So if you're ever looking for like good conditions, don't worry just about the temperature. Look at the wind direction as well.
I have a question about, so it's the wetsuits that we use here, is it does it help with speed too? I'm assuming.
Yeah, the main reason people like wetsuits is the neoprene gives you more buoyancy, and they have rules like you can't have a wetsuit that has more than 5 millimeters of neoprene. So if you get like some diving suits might have more than that. And they're hydrophobic, meaning the material repels water. So it doesn't absorb on your body. And so you swim a lot faster because of that. Some competitive swimmers also, like, instead of getting a full neoprene wetsuit, will wear a swim skin, which is a non-neoprene layer. Like if you've watched the Olympics and you see people swimming in the Olympics, they have those technical swimsuits in the pool swimming events. You can use those as an additional layer over your triathlon suit underneath, where you get the benefits of being more hydrophobic and faster and water repellent without the bulk or the warmth of neoprene. So in hot water races, like in some events, like in Hawaii, the water temperature is really warm, and they actually have a rule where you can't use a wetsuit at the Ironman World Championships. So everyone uses a swim skin instead. They want to get every advantage they can. The swim skins can vary, wetsuits can vary quite a bit. Like on sale, you can find wetsuits for $200 or even less sometimes, all the way up to $1,000. Swim skins, usually you can find some on sale around $100, but usually closer to $200. But they don't usually go more than like $300-400 or so. They're usually a little bit cheaper, but they won't keep you warm. That's the downside. The nice thing is though, they're not as restrictive, so it doesn't affect your breathing, doesn't affect your ability to turn your arms over quicker. So a lot of competitive swimmers actually don't like the full sleeve wetsuits because you feel like you're fighting more material. And if you're trying to swim at a higher cadence, a higher turnover rate, you're doing a lot more work when you have that neoprene on your arms. So that's why some people like the sleeveless wetsuits. But those won't keep you as warm. So there's pros and cons. Synergy is a Chicago Tri sponsor. They do have the code SHYTRI you can use for 20% off. Anything on their website. They also have their newer entry-level wetsuit, the Hyperion Elite, is 40% off with the code SUPER40. And their rep gave me a special link, so if anybody wants, they have a special 50% off discount that we can share as well, but you have to email me to get that. They have swim buoys. What's that? Yeah, I don't know how long the discount lasts though. It might just be for a little while. And then they do have wetsuit rentals as well. Those are done online. It's a 30-day rental, like $50 and up, and you just ship it and then ship it back. So that's another option too if you're looking for a low cost option for wetsuits. I'm gonna skip their video. They have a whole video on getting in your wetsuit. The biggest tip for getting in your wetsuit is, and I usually like to use a Portillo's plastic bag, but any plastic bag will do. If you're trying a wetsuit on, use this, put your arm in it. You can slide your arm into the wetsuit a lot easier, and you can get the material higher up on your arm a lot easier. So you don't have to inch it up bit by bit. Same thing with your foot. You put your foot in here and just slide it in very quickly. So I always keep one of these with my wetsuit for race day, for training. So if anybody wants to take a plastic bag, you can grab one. But that makes it a lot easier. If you've never put a wetsuit on, the first time you do, if they're not wet, they don't stretch as much. So they're tight. You'll be like sweating just trying to get it on. That's normal. It is designed to be pretty tight. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, so Gillian Feely, I think, right? Feely. I always forget how to pronounce her last name. I think it's Feely. I thought she said Feely so I don't know. Anyhow, there's Gillian from Live Grit Soars, and there's Jillian here at BFF Bikes. They both support the Chicago Tri and the First Timers program, so don't confuse them. They both were bike shop owners, oddly enough, but. So our First Timers program, we do clinics on Wednesday nights at 6 o'clock every couple of weeks. So she heads those up, and the recordings of those are on their website. You can get in touch with her. You can get in touch with me as well. There's a Facebook group for that First Timers program. Even if you're not a first timer, but you just want to kind of connect with that community, we have alumni in that group too. So second timers and third timers. And then Live Grit Soars has a website where she posts all the recordings and has the schedule of everything. There's also a new Chicago Tri Strava group and there's all new social media for Chicago Tri. So if you're following like their Facebook page or Strava, Instagram last year, make sure you follow the new ones. They just redid everything with the whole Buy Super Tri branding. So all the content, all the videos, all the clinics and events that are going out via those channels, make sure you're just following those new channels. But that's pretty much all I got. And I have a couple other links up here too for general resources. If you guys have questions, feel free to reach out anytime. If you ever want to join in, and if you want to make a donation to my swim buoy fund for passing on swim buoys, let me know. We have some here too. So if anybody did make a donation to either the USA Triathlon Foundation or one of our charity partners that I help coach, Team Done AIDS, you can get a wetsuit for $75 as a donation, or a buoy for any donation of any kind. But I think that's everything. I covered a lot. So we'll kind of open it up to questions. We can socialize, grab another beer if you want to. I don't know, Jillian, did you have anything else you wanted to mention? Are there any other specials tonight? I know I was going to mention, I totally forgot. Garmin just released a whole new series of watches yesterday. And Jillian has Garmin watches here. If you don't have a Garmin watch, they are really the best open water swimming gadget to have. They can automatically count your laps in the pool. And she's got up in the lighted case up there in the back with the little screen up there, the Form goggles, which if you want to try them on, they're neat. All of our lap swimmers use them now because you can see the reason I like them is you can see your heart rate while you're swimming, so you can kind of pace yourself, but also your stroke rate in real time, so your cadence. And a big limiter for a lot of swimmers to get faster is not working on their stroke rate, like how to turn your arms over faster. And that usually caps people in their progression. So being able to see that metric in real time is something that we never really were able to do in the past. So if you're a cyclist and you're used to doing cadence drills, now you can kind of do that with swimming. And then they have their open water mode where they actually have a, what do you call it? What's that? Yeah, it's a compass. I forget the technical term for that. A magnetometer. There we go. So it tells you your bearing, the degrees that you're swimming. So you can sight and then see, okay, I'm at like 270 degrees, and then just swim, and you never have to pick your head up again. You can just on your screen see if you're still going at that bearing. So a lot of people are using that now, and you're seeing like their little GPS plots afterwards. No, we'll pull one up, I think. I don't know if I have mine handy. I might have one over here. But yeah, they're expensive gadgets. It's like any piece of technology.
But you can also create your own custom workouts and send them to your
Yeah, yep. And it integrates in like, if anyone needs a free training plan too, we have a Chicago Tri plan coming out, a 12-week plan. And then I have a free trial link for TriDot. We have plans on Training Peaks. So if you want any of those, I'll put a couple cards out for afterwards. Yeah, I've got a few here. I'll put them up here on the table. But a lot of those training plan tools will actually send the workout in, so you can actually see your workout while you're swimming. You don't have to like stop and look at the pool deck, look at your phone or anything like that.
count of how many laps I've done, so it's like the lifesaver.
Yeah.
I no longer have to think.
Yep. You can customize whatever data you see and all that. So yeah, with the lifestyle athletes who have invested a lot in the sport, we're seeing more and more of them use those on a regular basis. But yeah. Any other questions?
I heard on a tripod episode recently talking about like things can go wrong doing swing.
Oh yeah.
Nightmare like sources. One thing they did suggest, like instead of those like caps, you can do like double swim cap. Is that right?
Yeah, so instead of a neoprene cap, people will do like a double swim cap. So if you're in a cold water swim, you'll just take a regular swim cap. I don't know if I have a couple, yeah. So different types of swim caps will be made out of different material. And the latex ones are usually a lot thinner. And then they have silicone ones that are thicker. And usually the race ones that you get are generally always latex. So sometimes people will have a silicone one they'll put underneath and then put the latex one on top. You'll see that even in pool swimmers, they do that for competitive reasons to like have more compression. They'll put 2 swim caps on and it just makes holds their ears in even tighter and like gives them every little marginal gain. So if anyone wants an extra Chicago Tri swim cap, feel free, you can grab one here tonight. But yeah, that's a good tip.
I'm also very scared of being kicked by people.
Yeah.
And I wear contact lenses, so I'm like, like what if something happened? Like, do people actually bring 2 pairs of goggles on those?
Sometimes, yeah. Like some people, after someone has had like a pair of goggles like break on you, like if you have I had an old pair, we were in, was it Australia? I can't remember. Spain, yeah. Ibiza. And I was lining up at the start and I didn't realize the nose bridge on my goggles had worn down so much, it was cracked. And as soon as I put it on my head, it just snapped. And I had there's no way to fix that. Luckily, I had one spare in my bag and I was able to run back and get it. But yeah, sometimes you'll see people wear one just around their neck as like a spare backup. But at least at the Chicago Tri and most triathlons, by the swim start, they'll have the timing company booth or tent. And they usually always have a couple spare pairs there. Or they make an announcement and they're like, hey, anybody have a spare pair? And then usually someone always does have one. Yeah. But yeah, I would say just make sure you don't use a really old pair of goggles. That's the lesson to be learned there. But yeah, we're doing the running version of that podcast I'm recording on Wednesday, so that'll be out in another week. So, oh yeah, the heads-up display ones. Yeah, so there's, they don't necessarily have the distance marked on them. Like some events will have the buoys where they actually put the distance marking on them. Yeah, at the Chicago Tri, I don't know if I have it outlined here. There really are, and it depends on the setup, but for the Olympic distance, because you're swimming down and then back up, they put a line of buoys through the middle there, and they're very evenly spaced, so you can, I forget the exact measurement, but going north, there really is not. They did put a couple buoys around the middle section because that's where the pro race was being set up. And so around the dock there, they kind of put a couple extra. And then at the very end, when you're coming out, you can kind of see one yellow buoy up here in the distance, way, way back. But that's down at pretty much the sprint start. And there's really only lifeguards. But there's so many lifeguards, they corral you through. So if you go too far off course, they definitely let you know. But yeah, you can see here on the sprint, there's no buoys, but lots of lifeguard boats, pretty evenly spaced.
Because I'd love to have an indication as to how far I am, because I'm
Yeah.
not sure I would swim with the form goggles, and it messes with my pitch.
Yeah.
It's not as comfortable, so I know I won't.
I still if I'm competitively swimming, I do wear my regular goggles, just because the form, they're great with the heads-up display, but the field of view is a lot narrower. And I like having that full field of view when I'm trying to draft off of somebody. But if I'm swimming on my own, I like them. I don't have a good photo. I'm trying to see if I have a good photo of that swim buoys. Yeah, there'll be one by the start area. I have another photo somewhere else we can see it. But yeah, this is looking south. So you can see they'll have a small yellow buoy and then a bigger, for the turnaround point, they have a really big one. But they'll have yellow, orange, yellow, orange, yellow, orange. And I think it's a red turn buoy at the south end as you get closer. But
Do you sync this with the government logo?
It has its own form app, form goggles app, but it syncs with training weeks.
yeah, you can, the form, you can actually, when you're swimming in open water, you can have it connect to your Garmin. And so your Garmin can get the GPS distance, and you can actually see the distance from the Garmin on your screen. But in the pool, they just work even without a watch. They have their own accelerometer to measure laps and distance and stroke, and they give you metrics on like, are you tilting your head up too much? Are you over rotating? It's like, yeah, I have the Form 1 is the original one, and then the Form 2 has a built-in heart rate monitor that measures heart rate at the temple. So I have both of them. I've used them over the years. But yeah, when they first came out, that was kind of like the revolutionary thing they really didn't talk enough about, was the fact that you can swim to cadence. Like you can actually real time see if you're increasing your stroke rate. And like I said, that's a drill I like to have people do, but it's also just something that ends up plateauing a lot of people. Like people who say, oh, I always swim at the same pace. You know, I try to do intervals and I'm like a little bit faster and I can't figure out how to swim faster. And a lot of that comes down to like shortening your entry, getting quicker on your recovery out of the water, and like doing little technique things to try to bring that cadence number up. Because just like running, like the only way to run faster is you got to turn your legs over faster or you lengthen your stride. Same thing with swimming. If you want to get faster, it can be more hydrodynamic, but you need a longer stroke, more distance per stroke, and you need a higher cadence. And so if you never work on those two things, you're always going to kind of limit how much you're going to progress as a swimmer. But yeah, good questions. Yeah. I will have, if you aren't in I'll leave those links up. If you're in the Strava group or the Facebook group for the First Timers program or the general Strava group, we'll post a lot of upcoming events, like different community events too, like some of the club events we'll put on, like maybe the CTC socials will add on their Stroke and Strides. So if you're looking for ways to just meet up with other people or find out like what's going on in Chicago, we're working on actively making kind of a community resource available for especially our newbies. But yeah. Yeah, have another beer, hang out, ask questions. Trying to think if I forgot anything else. Hopefully that's a little bit of everything. Yeah. And we'll have, I don't know what the topic is for next month, but like every 4 weeks or so we have another one of these here, so feel free to hang out on Friday nights with us. The bike, yeah. That'll be the big one. If you need a fancy new bike, we can talk a lot about bikes. Yeah, we need to make Liv and Giant the Chicago Tri sponsor. I like their metallic paint jobs are really, really cool. We don't have the blue one. The blue one's my favorite one. But yeah, and I forgot to mention, if you do want to come to our unofficial swim meetups, one thing I forgot to mention is in the city of Chicago, there are lifeguards on duty at all the beaches only from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. from Memorial Day to Labor Day. Those are the official times that you're supposed to swim, but a lot of groups do swim earlier in the morning, so just make sure you're getting a swim buoy or a bright cap if you're doing that, and doing that buddy system. And so I've organized a couple of meetups already. The first day that lifeguards are on duty, right at 11 a.m. on Friday of Memorial Day weekend. So next Friday, at 11 a.m. we're gonna go and do our kind of inaugural, first swim of the season at Ohio Street Beach. So it's not an official event. I'm not responsible for if a lot of people show up or nobody shows up, but we do that and then hang out at Cafe Oliva, and then it's been a tradition to also do that on Memorial Day Monday. So both Friday and Monday of Memorial Day weekend, we'll have those unofficial swim meetups. I'll have a couple extra buoys, and then that Tuesday swim clinic is the next day, on Tuesday right after Memorial Day weekend. So lots of fun events coming up.
Is Monday also at 11?
It's what? 11 a.m. as well, yep. Yeah, one of my friend coaches, Brian McClellan, he helps out with our Try 312 YouTube channel. So we're gonna do some tips on open water swimming and record some stuff on that Monday down there as well. So we'll be hanging out for a few hours probably after the swim. So we'll be at the Cafe Oliva down at the beach there, probably till at least 1 or 2 o'clock after the swims. But bring a lock. If you've never been to Ohio Street Beach, they have lockers. get like just any cheap, small, combination lock. Don't bring a key and lose a key. But if you do, reach out, let us know. One of my coaches lives in Lake Point Tower right across the street. And one of our volunteers who does the stand-up paddleboard support on race day, his name is Fred. He lives right across Lakeshore Drive, and he's got bolt cutters. And we've saved people a few times where people lose their key and they're like, what do I do? My cell phone, everything's in there. And I'm like, all right, just call Fred. Comes across the street with bolt cutters. And the police looked at us weird one time, but one of the police officers who works that beat is one of our swim coaches. So he's a triathlete. So we have good friends all over the place in Chicago. But yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Eat and drink. Grab some of these nice cookies. Yeah.